Hello, listeners. Welcome to a special bonus episode of the Prevention Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Clausen. If you tuned into our episode from the first week of October, you heard the moving story of Sarah, a military family resiliency specialist from Kentucky. We dove deep into her personal journey growing up in a military family and the transformative experiences that led her to the realm of prevention. Today, we are building on that foundation. We're diving even deeper into the Purple Star Award program, an initiative that's making a significant difference in the lives of military-connected students. We'll also give you a sneak peek into the upcoming Purple Star USA conference and hear more from experts in the field. This bonus episode promises to offer a wealth of insight, resources, and stories that complement our previous discussion with Sarah. Whether you're a prevention professional, educator, or just someone passionate about supporting our military families, this episode is a must listen. So let's dive on in. In prevention, we are all leaders. Whether you're leading a nationwide prevention initiative, facilitating statewide prevention community, you're a coalition coordinator, or a one-person shop, you are a prevention leader. How we show up and how we engage with others to create positive change takes all types of leadership. So sit back and enjoy these conversations with your fellow prevention leaders from across the globe who are sharing their lessons learned, best practices, and strategies for success. All right, welcome back, podcast listeners. Here we are for a bonus episode for this October. And without further ado, we're just jumping right into it because we can't wait to get this conversation to you. And I've got with me my friends Sarah and Steve. Welcome. Actually, Sarah, welcome back to the podcast. Steve, welcome. Glad to have you both here again.
Pleasure to be here, Dave. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thanks, Dave. Always a great time with you.
Hey, prevention is better together. So, Sarah, you were just on. Listeners, check out the last episode to really hear about Sarah's personal story and ties to prevention. But Sarah, would you start off giving sort of the Cliff Notes bio? Hey, who you are, what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Sarah Flowers. I am the Military Family Resiliency Specialist for the state of Kentucky. I started in our Regional Prevention Center, which serves 7 counties, including Louisville, and within a few years worked myself into a statewide role of providing TA and consultation to our prevention network across Kentucky and their communities, coalitions, organizations, and schools. So my focus is military-connected population because I'm a proud Navy brat. My dad retired Navy and both my brothers served in the Army and Army National Guard. And so I bring both personal and professional experience into prevention.
Marvelous, marvelous. And yes, folks, go back to the last episode and listen to Sarah's inspiring journey into the work that she does. It is a very, very heartwarming story. Definitely worth listening to. All right. Well, Steve, what do you got for us? Hit us with who you are and what you do.
Yeah, Steve Cameron, native of Kentucky. I live here in Louisville. And so I've been in prevention. I like to call myself a prevention dinosaur, but I mean that in a good sense. So I've been in it about 20 years and I've seen a lot of evolution, a lot of changes, and I've had a lot of different roles during that time. But I think one consistent thread throughout this career is I've had a lot of experience in strategic planning and being either a project coordinator or a project manager of federal grants. And so Kentucky historically has been very successful at applying and obtaining the SAMHSA grants. We were in the first cohort, if anybody remembers what was back then called just the state incentives grants back in the late 90s. And we were again in the first cohort when the first strategic prevention framework grant came out. And We've had 2 Partnership for Success grants, and we were just awarded a third, the Partnership for Success 2023. So I have a long history of working in that, and as we're going to talk about a little bit later in the podcast, that's kind of what landed me here with the Purple Star program, because it originated out of one of those grants. But my work with military connected youth has come to me rather recently. So unlike Sarah, I mean, my father is a Korean War veteran, and he served, but that happened before I was born. So I wasn't impacted by his service in the way that we typically think of, military connected youth are, because all that had happened way before I came on the scene.
You got me thinking. I mean, my dad went to Vietnam long before I was born, but then also he joined the National Guard. So I was impacted by service in that manner, but also a little bit of post-traumatic stress years later, the military culture, the military bearing. And I don't know if I shared with you all, but his tour in Vietnam changed my life forever, in the fact that he got struck by lightning. And so his genes, his DNA got fried. Then he passed that on to me. So if you're always, a little curious about why is Dave the way he is, might have something to do with that.
Yeah. I think in retrospect, I mean, there are certain things about my dad that part of that military culture stayed with him, like the discipline, the focus, the organization, and the teamwork stuff. And that got not only me, I'm the eldest, so maybe got a little more of that than my brothers and sisters. So yeah, I could see where part of that cultural component was passed on in that respect. Yeah.
Yeah, you were the squad leader, or the team leader.
Exactly.
Of the family.
For better or for worse, right? Yeah.
Right. We'll save that for another episode. Yeah. Well, we're here to talk about the Purple Star Award. And Steve, you said that you've come to work in that a little more recently. Would you mind giving us sort of the nuts and bolts of what that is?
The Purple Star Award program actually originated in Ohio, in the Ohio Department of Education system, and it was developed by a fellow who's since become a really good friend and colleague of ours, Mr. Pete Lupiba. And it was developed in about 2016, and the first Purple Star schools, I believe in Ohio, came on board in around 2018. Kentucky, we did not find out about the program until early 2020. And once we found out about it, for reasons we'll go into a little bit more in more detail later, we found it was very suitable for what the needs of that population of the military connected youth. But essentially, the Purple Star Award it's a state sponsored recognition for individual schools' dedication and support of military connected youth. Our mission statement here in Kentucky, what we're striving to do with the program, is to instill a sense of connection and strengthen resilience within Kentucky's military connected youth. And so the Purple Star Award designation lets military parents know, whether they're on active duty or in the National Guard reserves, that a school is dedicated to helping their child gain the educational skills necessary to be college, workforce, and life ready. And I think it's important to note that this program is supported by the U.S. Department of Defense and the Military Child Education Coalition and the Military Interstate Children's Compact Commission, the MIC3. And fact check me on this, Sarah, but I think there are currently 42 states right now that have state programs. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. They've either passed legislation and are working on developing the program for their state, or they're actually implementing programs within their states.
Yeah. And so we're very proud to be a part of this. And just a little bit of background on how we got here. I mentioned previously in my introduction that it was through one of our SAMHSA grants that we got on this path with military connected youth. And back in so we applied for the Partnership for Success 2015 grant, and we did a needs assessment prior to that in 2014. So we have a school survey called the Kentucky Incentives for Prevention Survey, and it's administered in even number years to grades 6, 8, 10th, and 12th. And it wasn't until 2014 that we added a military identifier to that survey, asking students about if they had a military connection. And when we say military connection, it's not just active service. It could be, you could have a father or an uncle or someone close to you, could be either currently serving or formerly served, right? In the armed forces or the National Guard, the reserves. And when we got the results of that, there were lots of eye-opening things. The first was the number of the youth, and that was just in those grades I mentioned. About 45% reported some kind of military connection. So that was eye-opener. Now, we do have 2 military bases here in Kentucky. We have Fort Campbell, which straddles southwestern Kentucky and then goes into Tennessee. And we also have Fort Knox. But the Department of Defense schools were not part of that survey. So those kids weren't included. So this is just outside of that. So our first aha moment was, wow, look at all these kids that we have that we didn't know about who had military connections. The second was when we started to look at those kids who reported military connections, and we started to cross-tabulate that with substance use and behavioral issues. And then we compared that to their civilian peers. In other words, those kids in the same grades who reported no military connections. That's when we saw a pretty significant disparity. In other words, those military kids were reporting higher incidences of prescription drug misuse, because this particular grant focused on prescription drugs, and reported higher incidences of anxiety and being bullied and things like that. And we know that military kids, of course, are very resilient, but they face some significant stressors. And as we had no experience, and I say we, I mean our prevention system had no experience working with that population, it was all new to us. So we had to hit the ground running and essentially figure it out as we were doing it, because in our work, when we talked about those traditional sectors that you have involved in your coalitions, I've done a lot of strategic planning, but I never in a community meeting said to folks, hey, you need to have a military representative on your coalition. That was just not something that was on our radar screen. So it was thanks to this needs assessment that these military connected youth and families on our radar screen and made it a priority. And it's still a priority because our work continues.
With my niece and nephew being military connected, their father's actually just retired from the Navy. I can see some of the stressors and kind of the risk factors, but I'm sure y'all could articulate them so much clearer. So what are some of those unique challenges, stressors that military connected youth might be facing?
I would say the number one stressor that can impact a young person is going to be the deployments, the multiple transitions and change that military families endure because of their service members. They have an opportunity to be promoted and gain accolades for their work. However, it can be very challenging on a child who may attend 6 to 9 different schools throughout their K through 12 year. They're having to make new friends every time they go to a new school and find new youth groups and new supports that are at the school. There may be different graduation requirements at one school because they're always the new kid. It could put them at greater risk for being bullied, or if a family member is deployed to a combat zone and endures an injury, whether that's physical or mental, and they return home, the families have to adjust, and it greatly impacts that young person's ability to manage school and social life because of those challenges within military families.
Another factor that we've just recently become aware of, and it was through a survey that was done by the National Military Family Association, and they did a survey of about 2,000 military connected kids, and it was about food insecurity, right? And it was pretty telling because out of those respondents who took the survey, there was about 46% of teens reported being food insecure on some level. And there were different levels of food insecurity. Some kids may have had, say, enough to eat, but it wasn't, maybe it was the same stuff and it was, maybe not what they preferred to eat, but it went from there to actually kids not having their nutritional needs met. And that was interesting because, and to get with what Sarah just said, those military teens who reported greater food insecurity were generally reported experiencing more military moves. And if you think about it, a situation where you've got a 2-income household, and let's say either the husband or the wife is enlisted, and then they have to move. Well, that other spouse may have a really good paying job, but may not have the same paying job or may not have a job at all when they go to the new place. And that's going to affect their income. Of course, Department of Defense offers, I'm sure they have allocations for those moves, but that may not cover all the costs, especially, in terms of lost income. So that's another layer on top of a layer.
Interesting that you bring up food. For my time at the PTDC, I got to connect with some folks from both my region, Region 7, and then Region 8. And they have been growing a group of stakeholders all around the topic of food and mood and the intersection of those. And I'll get you connected with them. They've got a lot of resources they've been developing over the years too. The impact, food insecurity, but also food quality. There's a lot of work going on around that too. Be interesting to see how we could fold that into y'all's work too. Yeah. Now, what do y'all see as some of the protective factors as it relates to military connected youth? I know you just kind of hinted at or mentioned resilience and belonging, but can y'all unpack that a little bit more for me?
Well, I'll share. In 2019, I met with the Kentucky National Guard Youth Council, and I showed them the data that we received from our middle and high schoolers. And I said, hey, why do you think that military youth are at greater risk? And what are some things in your community that help protect you all from using substances and, just increase that resiliency within these military connected teens? And one of the number one responses that I received was being understood as a military connected youth. They really appreciated having the teen council with the National Guard that meets. They have quarterly summits. They have an annual youth camp. They really talked about the military community as being a support for them and having those peer-to-peer connections. And because of the teen council and the youth camp, youth were meeting once a year in the summer camp and learning, wow, you live in my same rural community where there's only one high school. There's another military kid like me. And so they became friends. And then throughout their high school, they have someone that they can go to connect with if they're having a difficult time or just need to feel understood by someone. And so having those peer-to-peer connections, having that knowledge and understanding of what it's like being in a military family. They also talked about teachers who disclosed that they were military connected, whether they were, veterans, National Guard, spouses, other family members. They went to those teachers before they went to other teachers if they were having a concern or needing someone to talk to. And so having that trusted adult within the school building, having those peer connections, and just feeling understood and heard, it was what they wanted, what they needed. And that came right out of their mouths, which, when Steve learned about the Purple Star Award and the benefits that it offers for the military connected students, we immediately jumped on it and said, we've got to bring this to Kentucky, and we've got to put this together and support our military youth here in Kentucky. And so that's what we've done.
To build on that, our strategic prevention framework logic, the SPIF, we talk about the fit of the intervention with the risk factors. And this was clearly one in which when we looked at what these youth were telling us and what we were seeing in our survey results about the sense of connection and what the Purple Star School did, it's just like, how can we, this is what we need. And it hits on a lot of what that youth group said on so many levels. And I think their input really, our mission statement that I quoted about instilling a sense of connection with military connected youth, that was developed by our advisory board. But I think that's really what it's all about, where these kids were saying they wanted to be connected with their peers, with their schools, and with their communities. And so through the kind of awareness that this program creates, and through the work of what we call the Purple Star liaison, who is that person in the school who in a lot of cases, they are military connected, but even if they aren't, they take a training that we have. It's an online training that we've partnered with the University of Kentucky, a child behavior psychologist who's also a veteran, and someone else that works for the veterans program there, to give our trainees a sense of, first, what is military culture all about? What is that like? And then what are the impacts of service, say, on the family and on the child's development? And, having that trusted adult with that knowledge, I think, makes a big difference.
I can agree. I can see that. It makes perfect sense. Yes. And so hopefully at this point in the episode, we've got a few listeners that are curious if their schools are Purple Star schools, or even how can or what does it take for my school to get a Purple Star Award. So what would y'all say to that? What could you tell them?
Well, I would say, since there are 42 states implementing it, that it's very likely that there are a lot of Purple Star schools out there. Since most states house their program in their Department of Education, I would go on your Department of Education's websites and search for Purple Star Award. You could also, every state has a MIC3, which Steve mentioned earlier, Military Interstate Children's Compact Commission. So a MIC3 commissioner in their Department of Education. So there are 50 of those across the country. Likely they are aware of the Purple Star Award programs. If you're in Kentucky and curious, you can check out kypurplestar.org, and there's a map that will show you all of our schools. But I would definitely reach out to your departments of education, your MIC3 commissioners. If you have any installations, you've got your school liaison officers that are at those installations. They can guide you in the right way. I know with Ohio and Virginia's Department of Education, they have all their schools listed. They are going to include the requirements, because even though we all have the same foundational requirements, some states may have different requirements, or Virginia has their own Purple Star liaison training. Ohio has theirs, but it is housed on their Department of Education website. So you'll be able to check that out and see exactly what the requirements are and get information on how to apply, or If you're currently a Purple Star school and you need to reapply, because in Kentucky, you have to reapply every 2 years just to ensure that you're continuing to do the work and you're building on those 4 foundational requirements. And so if they cannot find who that person is at their states, they can definitely always reach out to myself or Steve, and we can pull some strings. We know a lot of people out there across the country and can definitely help put them in contact too.
I was going to say it's also worth noting that, and this came out on the national evaluation that I think it was that MSEC, the Military Child Education Coalition, sponsored an evaluation of. This was kind of on a national level, but one of the things that they found is that when military parents are relocating, right, they look for Purple Star schools. At like something like 80%, the survey, the people that were surveyed in that and part of that evaluation said it was a factor. They, in other words, they chose a particular school because it was Purple Star school. So I think that would, to me, be an incentive for schools, right, to jump on board. I mean, the other thing here is that, and this is what Sarah and I, this is kind of our marketing speech that we give to school folks and staff, and at any conference we're at, it's, hey, you being the school, you're already doing most of this work, right? You might have a ROTC program. Schools are required by law to do some kind of military recognition event, right? That's in the, I know that's that way in Kentucky, it's in law, and a lot of that happens maybe Veterans Day or a month of the military child. So they're already doing a good number of what the program requires. So why not get the recognition for it and then join this network and get plugged into all these cool resources that we have that can help you?
I'm totally putting you on the spot. You mentioned 4 basic or foundational requirements. What are those?
So in Kentucky, which also across the nation, the 4 basic requirements are identifying a liaison within the school that is the point of contact for military students and families, whether they're new or they've been at the school for 2 years. They're going to be the help that a student needs throughout their period at the school, whether that's being a liaison between a teacher if something's going on in the classroom, or helping a family, or educating the rest of the school about military families and their unique experiences. So, number 1, identify that liaison. Number 2, the liaison has to complete an annual training. So in Kentucky, we have our established training, and even when they reapply, they have to continue their education. So on our website, we offered resources for continuing education on military culture and supporting military families. So number 2, attend a educational training on military families. The 3rd requirement is to host a military recognition event. Like Steve alluded to, maybe it's a Veterans Day program, maybe you have a high population of military students and you have a peer group, or you have a club. Maybe you have a breakfast in April for Month of the Military Child, or free entrance to a sporting event. So something where the entire school knows this is what we're doing to support our military students and families. And so it's showing the military connected youth, wow, you appreciate the sacrifice and the service of my family. And then it's showing the civilian students or the individuals not connected to the military, wow, look at what our military families are doing. They've done a lot. They've had a lot of different experiences. We should honor them, or maybe even encourage them to enlist in the future. So it provides this supportive environment that is appreciative of military families. And of course, the broader community is also impacted by these events because schools are promoting them. And so grandparents, aunts, uncles that may not be attached to the school, now they're seeing, wow, this school, this is my community. They really care about me. They support me. And so we've really changed the whole environment of the community over this one program or event. And lastly, the fourth requirement is to have a place on your local school website that provides information and resources to military families. So it could be things like your State Department of Veteran Affairs or national resources, but we really also want to offer those local service organizations that are providing support to military families, whether that's for food insecurity, for connection, for, Boys and Girls Club offers discounts and free programs to military connected families. And so making those resources easily accessible to military families, especially those that are coming and new to the school, whether they're transitioning from out of state or out of district, just having that easy access to resources when they need it, including the liaison's point of contact information.
Marvelous. And I hear you all have an event coming up in a few days where our listeners can get connected to the community, the Purple Star Award community at the national level. So what is that event?
So we are hosting our second annual Purple Star USA conference. And this has been really exciting with several of our partners with Ohio, Ashland University out of Ohio, Military Child Education Coalition. We've got partners all the way from Alaska that have been with us planning this national convening. And this is our second year doing it. And we're really excited. It will be Thursday, October 26th. And I'll be repeating that several times, but from 10 to 4 Eastern Standard Time. And this is an opportunity for those local schools and communities to highlight what they're doing to support military students in their schools. So we've got 21 exciting sessions from those local implementers on how to host a military appreciation breakfast. Where do you get funding to support your Purple Star Award program? How do you build a peer support group or a district-wide committee for military families? And so these are your boots on the ground professionals that are working with their local students and sharing all of their wealth of knowledge, experiences, and it is free to the public to learn about what these schools are doing and how we can make an impact with these military students. Several sessions are going to highlight our youth, and youth will be able to share what their thoughts and experiences have been attending Purple Star schools. We've got Bloom Youth, which is a military youth association, nonprofit organization, national. They have a panel and they'll be discussing what it's been like for them as military connected students. I believe one of our panelists will be joining us from Japan. So that's exciting. And we've also got some youth from Ohio and Virginia that will be sharing at various grade levels. So we've got sessions that will focus on elementary, middle, high school programming. We've even got a session if you're interested in replicating the Purple Star Award for college and universities. So to get those secondary education organizations on board. I am excited to announce that First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, will be recording a video to open our conference off to support the work that we're doing, and closing remarks from Dr. Porter at MSEC, Military Child Education Coalition. I should have led with her first.
Well, that's breaking news. I didn't know.
You didn't know?
I did not. I was like, I had to practically like put my mic on mute to stop from going, holy, whoa. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm getting emails with the caption FLOTUS. FLOTUS is recording.
Whoa.
So
Wow.
cool. So who should attend? Is this for folks that are already Purple Star schools or folks that are just interested? Just who should attend?
Really, anyone can attend. There's ideas for schools that currently have the Purple Star, and they'll be able to get new ideas or learn best practices, especially if you're interested in maybe a more data-driven approach or how you can improve what you're already doing. But even if you've never even heard of the Purple Star Award before now, there'll be sessions for you to hear from youth about what it's like and why this is important and why they are speaking out and advocating for themselves. And so whether you are a preventionist or you're a school professional, you're a community partner, even if you're a member of a VFW and you want to learn how you can support your military families in their schools, there's going to be sessions for everyone, and with 21 different sessions, and they're all recorded. So even if you can't stay all day from 10 to 4, we understand it. It can be a long commitment, especially for schools and teachers, but they're all being recorded and you'll have access to them all year long after the fact. All you have to do is register and you'll have access to PowerPoints and the recordings of all the sessions. So come one, come all.
Absolutely.
It's also kind of cool that how this conference just in its second year, how much it's grown, because last year was our first year. We had Sarah, 9 submissions for presentations, which was good. And this year we had 20, how many?
21.
21. Yeah. So that's more than double. And it'll be interesting too, because just based on the emails that I've seen flying around about people inquiring, I'm guessing that our attendance is going to be significantly higher this year than it was last year. So we're really excited, and we'll have Kentucky's own Brigadier General Stephen Bullard. He is the chairperson of our Purple Star Advisory Board. He will be doing the opening remarks, and so he's been part of this conference planning committee as well.
I love it. All right, listeners. The link to register to get connected and get involved is in the show notes. So be sure to check that out and go register. Even if you can't attend the day of. Talk about getting access to a wealth of knowledge and resources with the recordings. That's just awesome. Absolutely. Y'all are doing some great work. I love it. I'm so just honored that we're friends and colleagues. Yeah.
Thank you, Dave.
Before we close out, I know we've been chatting for a little bit. What haven't I asked about that you'd like to share with our listeners?
So, I just like to share maybe, some of we're in the process because, we're in prevention. And so we're data driven and we're looking at, what kinds of outcomes and things that have happened so far with the program. Now, of course, we're now in a third year, but we're very happy and very excited to say that our fall application round, which just concluded, was a record breaker. We had 29 applications. And so that brought our number of schools, if we're just about finished with the application reviews, but if all those get approved, that'll bring the number up to 72 some odd schools right now. But I just would like to share just some of the comments. We talk about in prevention, telling our story, and there are some stories that data just really can't tell. But one of the things that we do as part of the program is these Purple Star liaisons that are in the school, they take a survey twice a year. And so they're checking in on what kinds of activities they're doing and how it's going in their schools. And it's really heartening when they make comments, and I'll just read the comments because, like I said, this is something you don't get in the numbers. But there was one liaison who said, "We've been able to identify our military-related children," which was something that has not been done in the past. The biggest impact is the pride and community that has been built between these students, which is something that Sarah and I stress not only for our Purple Star schools, but when we do national presentations, our call to action for our attendees is, if you don't have a military identifier on your data collection instrument, whatever that is, get one on there because you've got to get the data. There was this other Purple Star liaison that and I love this comment, is letting the students share their experiences can help them be better understood by their peers. They were blown away by the resiliency of these military connected students. And I think that's important when people realize, as we said earlier, yes, there are challenges, but this is an extremely resilient population. And so that's been very heartening for both of us to see, even on the micro level, because like I said, we only have 72 schools, and that's I drop in a bucket, as they say, but we can see a certain synergy already developing from the data that we're getting. And we're very hopeful that as we move forward and bring this thing to scale, that we really will have an impact on those variables that we're trying to change.
I just want to reiterate that there's some stories that data can't tell. Yeah. Thank you for sharing those with us. Yeah. Any last parting words of wisdom, Sarah?
Just say that I encourage you all to come check out the conference, listen to these youth, hear their voice. That's what our Kentucky Teen Council said they needed, was a place to have their experiences shared. So I encourage you, check out the conference, whether you're military connected or not. This is my heart, my soul, my passion, my baby. But come out and listen to them and hear about the amazing work that teachers and schools and communities are doing to really make that community of support for our military connected youth, and be able to look at all of the proud work that's being done and be a part of the celebration with us. This is some of the most fun work that we have been privileged to. It's hard. Prevention can be difficult. It can be challenging, and data and numbers and meeting after meeting and Zoom. But when you get to see the impact that we're making because of those hours that we put in, it really encourages me. It encourages us as preventionists, empowers us to get out and continue to do the work that we're doing. So I thank all of the prevention work that's being done out across the country. I thank you all for your sacrifices and encourage you to join us October 26th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. online.
Beautiful. And I will see you both on the 26th. And listeners, I hope to see you all there as well. Sarah, Steve, always love chatting with you. Thank you for being such good, strong prevention leaders. More to come, because prevention is better together. Thank you all. That concludes this episode. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and share this episode with a friend before you leave. And we look forward to seeing you on social media, because prevention is better together. Together, we are stronger.